child sitting in the lap of my mother, I was just floating above 5 meters, and I saw like in a dark room, and it was a light coming just on this mother with. And many years later, actually last year, I was in Peru, and I decided to try something it never crossed my mind before, but I did something I never did before, which was ayahuasca. The people who doesn't know what ayahuasca is, this is a liana that you made a concoction together with plants, the chacruna. Traditional is the ayahuasca and the chacruna. Nowadays they use also other plants. And what these plants are doing, actually they are hallucinogenic, are usually traditionally used in the jungle in the Amazons, because they do grow in the Amazon. And the shamans, they use it for healing and to answer questions and to help you to focus on the path of your life. That will be your question, for example. So in Peru, I took ayahuasca like 5-6 times. I'm making a video about it, it's still not finished, about that experience. Not all the sessions gave me the expected effects, no. But at least through them, and I got answers. And one thing was that in my past life, or in another life, I was a Austrian psychiatrist who just left, went to South America, Venezuela, crossed Venezuela, ended up in the Amazons, and I learned with the shamans there. So yes, again, I was a man. What I did not understand is why I spent so many years, so much effort in learning psychiatry. I mean, this is not something you just learn in 1 year. Why I decided to leave? So in one of the last sessions, what the answer came was that because I was a Jewish. I was a Jewish for the time of Hitler. I had to run away because they wanted to do whatever. So I just ran and I went there. So the thing is that I hated that language. I hated the German language, because that language, that people who were speaking that language are racist in that time, not now, are racist, and I hated that language. So nowadays I live in Germany, I live since many years, and I had such a blockage with this language. I could not learn it. I just was like totally like, no. After I knew that, and especially after work on it, to understand the people, it's like something was lifted out of me. I understand much better. And I cannot say that I can speak it much better. I still, of course, I'm doing a lot of grammatical mistakes. I have to learn, but I believe that when now I learned this language, it's going to be 1,000 times easier, because this blockage of the reason because I had this blockage now is lifted up. Now there are two facts, two moments in my life when I can say I agree with that. It's not just the ayahuasca that told me. And that is one when I was fresh, 9 years old. Just one day I woke up and I saw monsters. I saw little monsters moving, flying around, and spiders and worms moving, everything was moving. And my father, I was just sitting on the bed and watching that. I was like, ugh. And my father came and said, oh, come on, hurry up, you have to go to school. I said, no, you know what? I think I have very high fever because I'm hallucinating. Now, how a 9 years old child, who in that time the television was just for Heidi and for, these little uh, things for children, how a child could know that high fever can cause hallucinations? Well, if I was a psychiatrist, I do know that. And another fact is that when I was just 1 week old, 15 years old, my family had to move to Venezuela for the work of my father. And we had to go by car from Caracas to San Cristobal, that is in the state of Táchira, the border with Colombia. That was like 12 hours drive. And in the way, of course, you go also through jungles, or you see the nature there. And I remember I was crying to tears with my cheeks, and I was like, I'm home. I was here. And I wanted to stop the car and get out and go with my people. I had such a strong feeling that time, which was not making sense. As I said, I was a Catholic. Reincarnation is a taboo. You don't talk about it in Catholicism. They forbid to talk about it because they prefer to ignore it. And you just do the work in this lifetime. But in that time as a Catholic, not believing in reincarnation, I was later knew. But it was such a strong feeling that I was there before in this jungle. So all that was a confirmation, or the ayahuasca experience was a confirmation that I did live in Venezuela, or I did live in the jungle, and that I was a psychiatrist. Now, after telling all these boring stories, many of you might have left, most probably, but for whoever still is there, I'm going to tell you why I'm telling all these stories. Because if you notice, there is something that is not really fitting, it's at odds. The Spanish War ended on 1939, establishing Franco his dictatorship that could last till his death in November of 1975. The Chinese invasion was, the invasion of Tibet was in 1950, and there, from that moment on, you know what happened. But the invasion of Tibet was in 1950, and Hitler was leader from 1934 until his death in 1945. That is, I live in Spain in the Franco time, and that is between 1939 and until my own death in the middle of the 60s, because under the Buddhist point of view, we are reincarnated within 2 months after we pass away. We don't wait for years. Unless you are enlightened, then you can choose when to get reincarnated. But the people who are not reincarnated, not enlightened like me, we just get reincarnated within 2 months. That means if I was born in the middle of the 60s, in my other life, it was also in the middle of the 60s. So I was between 1939 and middle of the 60s in the Spain of Franco, and I died, I was killed. And as being killed, dictatorship normally don't kill children, so I was an adult then. Also, I lived in Tibet during the invasion, and I was a Tibetan Nakpa. That means I was already an adult in 1950 when the Chinese came to Tibet. And I also lived during Hitler time. That makes me live between 1934 and I don't know when I died, when I was in the jungle in the Amazon, but as I left Europe as a psychiatrist, that means, therefore, I was an adult. Yeah. And given that my other two lives ended with violence, most probably in that life as a psychiatrist in the jungle, probably also. Therefore, there are years that overlap. And that will mean that I lived in at least 3 bodies at the same time. It is known by Buddhists that the high enlightened beings, like Dalai Lama, they can choose to be reincarnated in 1 body, or in 2, or in more bodies. I always thought only the enlightened beings, the people who is highly spiritual, can do that. But after this experience, I can say now that everybody can do that. Maybe now consciously we don't choose about it. It's something we choose when we are in that bardo, in that limbo, in that stage between birth and birth. In that time we choose, we want to learn not only one thing or one experience, or we want to help people in different bodies, in whatever form we can help. So everybody can reincarnate in more than 1 body. And I never heard about it before. I thought it was just my own opinion. But a couple of weeks ago, I was actually watching a television program of spiritual themes, and it was a well-known hypnotherapist. He said that one client of him went to him once, asking to know about his past life. And what happened during the trance was that he said, I am a woman, my name is so-and-so, and I live in so-and-so address. So when he came out of the trance, the hypnotherapist told him, if just go and visit this woman, because it seems that he was talking of now I am a woman with this name, not in a past life. And whatever address he gave was something of this life. So he found this address, existed that woman with that name in that address, and he contacted her, they met. And what he told later to this hypnotist was, it was a very strange experience to meet her, because it was certainly so much similarities between one and the other. The faces of their lives, the things they do, the interests they have, so similar, like meeting your own self. Because he went to the psychiatrist, to the hypnotist, to know about his past life, is his other life, in this lifetime, in this dimension. So he met his parallel self. He had his chance to meet her. So I did like hearing that story, because that means that I'm not alone with his theory of the parallel selves. So it's not like a soulmate. Somehow the people believe soulmate is somebody with whom you have a romantic story, and because you are very similar, it's just like, yeah. Parallel self, it doesn't have to be something romantic between you two. These two didn't have anything romantic in the case of the United States. I don't know when that interview was made, because I just saw it in December 19. It could have been done some years ago. So I don't know if these two later met again and had something romantic between them, but in theory, it doesn't have to have something romantic with your parallel self. Do you want a challenge?